So maybe I'm having to overcome a little bit of that. Well, he just shows really good, or hey, beware because I'm not, and so now I'm just trying to buy quality, good. Well, I wasn't horse trading by no means, but maybe was showing around some issues that didn't have a lot of longevity as a show horse, and now I'm just trying to get good quality. But I mean, learning how to lose is a huge deal. There's been times like big shows, come Snaffle Futurity, World's Greatest Horseman that I've been with Boyd, and it's like something so small happened, and we went from winning it to nothing. They said at one time he had a little over 1 million acres in land holdings by the time we, children, and we know the process after that.
So, welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. I'm Crockett Carruthers, your host. Today we got Parke Greeson from Sarco Creek Ranch, and we're going to go kind of into the history of the ranch. They show a lot of horses, have a very diverse ranching program, so we'll go into that. I think y'all will like it. It's going to be a episode with a lot of ranch and a lot of cowboy content in there.
There was a pretty big family operation presence, but then there was also somebody that had a relationship with a ranch that they were basically vetting them to come back and be in that.
So, Parke, how's it going?
It's good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You're up here for World's Greatest Horseman, huh? Been showing up there?
For sure, yeah. I had one for the World's Greatest. He got a little sore, so I didn't end up entering, but still like to come, bring my 3-year-olds, get them out, and the ones that we'll bring to the Snaffle bit next year and kind of let them see the deal. And I had a lady come try a horse this morning, got him sold. So, yeah, it's been good.
Cool.
Come support and see what's new.
Right.
You bet.
So y'all are in Goliad, right? Goliad,
sure are.
Texas.
Yep, Goliad, Texas. Goliad, we ranch in Goliad and Refugio County, so right there, kind of South Texas. Yep.
So I want you to go into the history of that. I was, doing some research, and y'all have a Facebook page, and it said y'all the ranch was established in the 1800s, and
for sure,
there's probably a lot of history back there. Have you ever asked yourself why it costs so much to get paid? Hey everyone, this is a show that has a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners on, and the number one rule in business is to get paid, right? If you own a business, there's a good chance you're overpaying for credit card processing, and there's an even better chance that you're getting terrible customer service. At Diversified Payments, we make the payment process simple for both the customer and the business. Being based in Central Texas, we're able to offer business owners personal customer service while saving them money on their credit card processing fees. And we're the only payment company that I know of that's deeply rooted in the ranching and rodeo industries. If you think you're paying way too much in card processing fees, or you can't get in touch with your payment processor when there's an issue, go to diversifiedpayments.com/wealthycowboy.
The original founder of the ranch, Thomas O'Connor, came over in 1831. And I guess at that time, with the push for the, Western settling and civilization, they were given some homestead acreage. And so he acquired that acreage at that time and then fought in, several of the battles for Texas independence. And post San Jacinto, most everybody that fought in the battle was then granted more acreage. So that was kind of the beginning of his land holdings. And the story that we're told, of course, history is kind of like a game of telephone, or can be, but he had that, and he had some cattle background. And at that time, there were still some wild cattle unclaimed cattle in this part of the world. So he would, he'd gather those wild cattle, throw them together, get them gentle and get a calf crop off of them, sell those. And then with the proceeds, he was expanding his land holdings. So that's kind of how the start of it worked. I do know that when Texas won their independence, there was a lot of land given to, the Hispanics that fought in the war. Most of them wanted to go home. He kind of saw that trend and then was able to acquire more land
Keep
holdings.
Building it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. And it's kind of cool to look back at those times and see the opportunities that people had to accumulate and grow. If they were entrepreneurs back then, you could put together a couple 100,000 acres and a big herd of cattle as long as you worked all day and night, and maybe hired some guys to help you do it. Then you had time, so you could just go do it. It's pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah, that's what That's, they said at one time he had a little over 1 million acres in land holdings by the time we, children, and we know the process after that. So,
yeah, and I would say probably kind of where you're at in that history right there. I mean, y'all were right there with fighting for Texas independence right there.
Absolutely.
Kind of before everybody moved west, there's a lot of history in these West Texas ranches, but y'all were kind of right there at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the story said, kind of post San Jacinto battle is when he started putting most of his land holdings together. And then his son, so he had 2 sons, Dennis and Thomas M. O'Connor. My lineage is going to be on the Thomas M. O'Connor side. And in the early 1900s, he partnered with a guy named Shanghai Pierce and brought some of the first Brahman cattle from India to South Texas. From what he'd understood, they were pretty hardy, heat tolerant cattle. And so that was kind of the start of that after that. And then I'm the 6th generation on the ranch currently. So there's been division and there's been, land. There's, for the most part, we're pretty lucky. We don't have a lot of pressure from, like metropolitan growth. Corpus being an hour and a half, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, all about 120 miles, 2 hours. So we've able, nothing like what I've been out west, but we still have some large ranches down there. So it's good to see. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask you. Is there still some big chunks of land down there?
There is. Yeah, there sure is. And most of it was originally, O'Connor country. I'm sure you're familiar with the Brahmins in the roping, your involvement in the roping, but we're all come from the same lineage. That Thomas, the original Thomas founder, and then the children after that. So all kind of originally O'Connor land.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's been good. There's been some division, but I'm pretty lucky because of the 5th generation before me would be my mother, her 2 sisters, and their brother. And the brother didn't have any children, and the sister didn't have any children. And so it's just me and my cousin. So we're kind of going from 4 to 2. And we're putting back together some larger land masses, with a less diverse surface ownership. So we're pretty fortunate in our generation. And I think my cousin and I really see that opportunity there to be able to set down a good business format, something that we can pass on generationally while it's simple,
Yeah, and I see, I kind of try to look at the whole picture in no matter what the subject is. And I see a lot of stuff on social media and I see it out in the real world. A lot of this country is getting cut up, and a lot of little ranches and are turning into subdivisions, especially down where I live. A lot of growth is happening. Everybody's moving to Texas, and people are pushing back on that. They're saying don't turn this family land into subdivisions, don't cut it up, all this. But you have to look at the whole picture. Like, if you have 200 acres these days, like, what are you going to do with 200 acres? You're not going to make a living off of it. So somebody could sell that for a bunch of money and go actually buy maybe a ranch somewhere or go do another business venture. So I don't think it's all bad, I think that if you want your family ranch, if you want that to be passed down and kept in the family, you probably need to make it profitable and kind of, pass something else along besides the land, you know, because if it's not income producing, then you just pass a burden on, right?
Right.
Or, leave a bunch of money behind where they can pay the bills on it forever if that's something. But, look at the whole picture and just say, I want to keep this 200 acres in my family for generations, but there's taxes on it. There's a lot of maintenance on big land. Just because you can buy a piece of land doesn't mean you can afford to maintain it. So I think a lot of people need to look at that. And like you're saying, like you're thinking about doing something like that. And I see when I was researching the ranch, y'all look like you're doing it all. You got cattle, a horse program, hunting and fishing also.
Yeah. That's kind of, not to get away what you said previously. That's my cousin and I's general basis of thinking is we want to continue ranching. We enjoy the history, we enjoy the legacy, but we're not ignorant to the fact of cattle that's not that doesn't keep you ranching. What I saw in the previous generation was, what was your sources of income on a ranch? Well, it was hunting, cattle, and oil and gas. I'm real optimistic about the future of ranching for us because now we have carbon, opportunities. We have more opportunities to leave the land and operating ranch and create revenue so that we can keep ranching. And ranching, I think, in the future is going to be more than just punching cows and riding horses. But if you can be open to that, you can keep doing what you love, which is, for us, is riding horses and ranching, So there's so many opportunities in our generation. Some of them are very new, but if you can look all down the several different avenues for income from the surface ownership, I think you can be very profitable in my generation and in the generations to come. I think people are starting to see value in grassland, and what it does for everybody. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you've got an education on that, right? You went to tell us a little bit about that. You went to Tech first?
I did. Yeah, I went to Tech, got a degree in animal science with emphasis on production. I like to tell everybody I went to Tech just to learn how to meet people, and being. I love that part of the world. Yeah, so grew up in South Texas, but always just had like a natural draw to the real old school working cowboy. So fortunate enough, my dad used to lease a ranch in Van Horn for the hunting, and a guy named Mike Capron and his son Wilson Capron lived out there and took care of that ranch. And so when I was growing up, wanted to learn how to get a lot better at roping, called Mike and Wilson, got hooked up with a guy named Shot Branham. And so Shot taught me how to rope when I was young, stayed in contact with him. As soon as I got old enough to drive, I went out to Midland, hung out with Shot, learned about Tech, the ranch horse team, right when it was all coming up. So then I went to Tech, got a degree in animal science, met, lifelong friends, still have friends, was in the part of the world that I really wanted to be in, kind of got my foot in the door and just loved it. And then from there, I'd always had the idea of going to the TCU program. Just ever since I was little, I can't even remember what drove me there, but I knew that's what I was going to do. Yeah. So as soon as I graduated from Tech, I went to the Ranch Management Program. And then I like to tell everybody, that's where I learned how to run a business, for sure. Yeah.
Do you think that's more of did it teach you more about the business side of it than anything?
So much. Yeah. And none of it's complicated math, it's just inputs, outputs, cash in, cash out. It's not algebra. It's not anything like that. But if you don't know how to put those numbers together, you never can see if the end picture will work or not. And that's what they teach you there.
Yeah.
In a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And then the pocketbook of contacts you get after going there, and kind of that, for lack of a better term, the fraternity of the ranch management program is a big time help when you get out into the industry, But they teach you. Yeah, it's hard for me to compare it to anywhere else, and I'm not trying to be too biased, but it's I use it every day.
Yeah.
I use it in my horse program, use it in my hunting program, ranching. I use it in other businesses I have that don't have anything to do with a cow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that I'm learning without formal education. Just you can learn that stuff. A lot of that business stuff, like you said, is just math. Finding the right numbers to run is one thing. And I think like Alex Hormozy and those guys, that's what they say. It's all just a numbers game. Sure. And you pay attention to where the money comes from, where it goes, and basically how it works. And you can relate it back to ranching. And I think it's kind of cool, the TCU deal. I thought about going. I graduated from Tarleton and then didn't really know what I wanted to do, something in the ranching industry. And I was like, well, the odds are if you go to TCU, to the ranch management, you come out and you can get a manager job or ranch job somewhere, which is what I was kind of looking for then. I know a lot of people just go back to their family ranches or go, go back to their own operation too.
Sure. Yeah, it's a big mix. In the class that we had, there was a pretty big family operation presence. But then there was also somebody that had a relationship with a ranch that they were basically vetting them to come back and be in that managerial spot. And there's some people in the banking business. There was some people that make a living in the ag lending that went to school with me.
Yeah.
So also a great connection, because if you're going to be in the cow business, you need to borrow a little money.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm the same way as you. I graduated from Tarleton with an animal production degree, and there's some things I took away, from it that I learned. I wasn't really focused on learning at that point. Is more about hanging out and meeting people and stuff. Which meeting people is, like you said, like that's the number one reason to go to college. I think unless if you're going for something special. And me and Shady talk about that now, is like, I was very interested in ag. That's all I cared about. And I didn't care about any of the other classes besides history. I like history, but none of the other classes that I just got by in them.
Right.
Because I had to. But if I was to go back, I would want to learn business and marketing and sales. And that ties back to the ranching,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I feel and I think that's probably the realization that I had, but I was at TCU when I had, post Lubbock, not that tech didn't teach me anything. Tech taught me a lot of, good lifelong goals that I was going to have, but TCU taught me how to be successful in the business that I chose to make a profession at.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So what does y'all's operation look like now? Like y'all do fishing, like guided fishing?
Well, I think, so the little bit of the stuff we're seeing on media right now, not to get on a side note, but I've had Dale's come down to the ranch before, and he's like, you need to, people are interested in what you're doing here. You need to have a presence on social media. And I kind of, was rolling and grind, really had a lot of different directions I was going with the business. And then as time went on, I kind of started seeing like Howler Brothers clothing. You familiar with them? I mean, they're like this fishing Western-esque lifestyle that really only kind of happens down there. So the unique thing for us is that I can be working horses, branding calves, and in 45 minutes, I can be on the water fishing or killing South Texas whitetail, and I thought, now that I've kind of got a little more established, a little more direction with the different entities that we have, I thought, it may be a good time to take advantage of the uniqueness that this way of life is kind of giving this South Texas feel.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's start promoting what we do. The fishing is mostly still private. It's something that all my friends come down during the summer and we go fishing and stuff like that. But I think it's more or less what I'm trying to show is just like what, Sarco lifestyle, which I think it's kind of unique. I don't know where it's going to lead, but instead of being divided in our media presence where it was the horses or the cattle or the fishing, and I just wanted it, because it's what we do, and it's, it's a tradition for us, and I think it's kind of a cool area specific lifestyle. Yeah. So I thought, well, let's just see where it goes.
Yeah, put it out there.
Sure.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember growing up, going to the junior opens. There were some kids from Florida that would come over to some of the bigger opens, and they would talk about how they would rope calves in the morning. During the summertime, they'd rope calves in the morning over there and then go surfing in the afternoon. I was like, dang, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Kind of get the best of both lives right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just kind of the uniqueness of it, and you may not see us on Facebook in 2 weeks, but as of right now, I'm excited about being able to show it, because before it was just my friends that got to come down and see it, and I think it's worth telling about. So
that's like the Wealthy Cowboy Show. You get to tell people stories, and a lot of people have cool stories and nobody ever knows about it.
Sure.
It's getting more prevalent. Social media, like Dell and there's other people, Buster and them, and getting to, post that stuff, which that turns into a job too. So like you said, if you're actually working and grinding and have a lot of stuff to do, you forget to pull your camera out. But if somebody could just follow, somebody in our line of work around, on a typical day, it would probably be pretty entertaining to a lot of people.
Yeah. And when you're younger, it's like, well, I want to be a cowboy. And so it's like everything cowboy. Like, no, I don't have a ball cap. I don't have a t-shirt. Like, I got pearl snaps and Levi's. And then as you get older and more established, you're like, no, it's okay to go fishing. Yeah. You can still be a cowboy, or it's okay to go hunt, Yeah. And I think, like, there's a lot of people in our industry that really like to do that stuff, like to fish and hunt and ride good horses and, do everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What about your horse program? Was that something that has been in the family for a long time, or are y'all kind of just getting in it? Or
we've always been breeding some mares over the years. My mother and father started it. They showed cutting horses growing up, and when I went to school, and kind of that's when the cow horse was starting to kind of have a little more presence here in Texas, and went up, and through my involvement in the cutting, I met Boyd. And bought my first cow horse from him. And so that's kind of what led me down the cow horse side of things, and then started going and helping a bunch of these ranches who had their broodmare bands and their studs, and saw the uniqueness and the, how everybody was proud of what they did. So I saw that, had our mares, raised several colts a year. I've actually changed our horse program up here in the last year or so. And I think there's no right or wrong way, but it's just unique to us. And so I really enjoy training and showing horses. That's, I like to be able to train them, show them at the futurity, and then sell them. So to where before we had 10 mares, 10 weanlings, 10 yearlings, 10 2-year-olds, 10 3-year-olds. Well, you look up and you got a lot of horses.
Yeah.
And so the unique thing about that is for me, since I wanted to train them, I didn't want to sell anything until I had the opportunity to train them as a 3-year-old. Well, then I've got 2-year-olds, and so I've got basically like having 25 cows and only selling 5 calves a year. Well, that cash flow doesn't work. So for me now, I've got a select handful of mares left and some yearlings, and so I'm just going to train the 3s. I train a couple for the cow horse futurity, a couple for the cutting futurity, and then sell them after that. So yeah, no, the horse program's been around a while. We never had our own stud, always bred outside studs, just trying to, I wasn't going to try and reinvent the wheel. The good horses are the good horses. It's very obvious. So we tried to breed the outside studs and kind of keep some good blood in our program. But yeah, the horse deal is a big part of my day. I've tried to make it a business. Doesn't lose money, doesn't make a lot of money, but it allows me to do what I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Which is the, training and showing and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, if you can do what you enjoy and make a little money at it, that's a big deal there. If it brings you happiness. What are y'all like? What is y'all's program? What do y'all look for in your mares and your studs, and like what kind of horse you trying to raise?
Yeah. So I think some of the, most of the mare band previous to my new changes was made up of horses that we showed, and I like to at least won $10,000, $12,000 on them, which I show in the non-pro. There's not as much money there. It's a little tougher to do, but I didn't want to, that mare is crippled. Let's breed her. Well, I don't want to just replicate something average. I want it to be a good horse.
Yeah.
And then I had one mare that kind of was really good for me, a one-time Pepto mare that I've, won close to like 90, 95, 100,000 on her colt, and it seemed like she just kept giving me good colts every year. So something like that, I wanted to have a good horse, so something big, strong, could travel, but mostly something that every year when I started her colts, it was, hey, there's another good horse, here's another well-built horse. That's what I wanted to replicate for sure. Because big sales, pretty sales, gentle sales. Yeah. So that's kind of what we were looking for.
What about your studs? How do you pick those out that you breed to?
I just kind of would go back, and as the futurity, just about like I'm sure everybody does, but you go look back at the Snaffle Futurity Finals, and there was X, Y, and Z Stevies, or whatever it was, and so a little bit late making that decision, right? Because
your year after the trend,
several years out. But like the stud magicality that Gusty Berger showed in the World's Greatest Horseman 2 or 3 years ago, every colt that Gusty's brought by magicality to the snaffle bit maturity has been big, strong, pretty horses. So that's kind of where I'd go with that. We had some crosses that always liked a little bit of cat on the stud side and maybe like a touch of Dulray in the mares, because the cat slowed the Dulray down a little bit. But it seems like that cross didn't, a little too much Dulray, they get a little small, a little fine boned, a little too much cat, they're a little slow, So I liked that cross when I was really breeding a bunch of mares. But now that I'm maybe going out and buying some yearlings to train and sell, now it's, where before it was maybe somebody won't bid on him because he's a XYZ or, and I can, and I've realized now it's always been about quality, but it's really about quality when I'm trying to sell, because maybe at the end of the day, all you have is big and pretty. Well, that still sells, so that's where my focus is going now for sure.
Yeah. And I think like size for us, we're not looking the same places and spending the same money like maybe you are. A lot of like top people that show all the time are, but we always try to buy a cowbred horse, and something that, has the potential to show or something. And there's so many little horses out in the, in the cutting. I think the cow horses are a little bit bigger because they have to be a little bit more well-rounded, but you get a lot of those little fine-boned 14-hand horses and stuff, and it's just, it makes it harder for me to go use them. They don't stand up to, if you go to rough country in the rocks and stuff, or you got to go rope something big and work off of them. So exactly. I think it's hard to, it's perfect if you're just in the pen in the sand all the time, but going out and trying to find those horses that are well-balanced, when you do find them, they cost a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know why. I've had a background in both the cutting and the cow horse, and I like them both. They're both the same at any level in either one of those associations. It takes an unbelievable horse from the top to the bottom to be in the top level, But I've really enjoyed my background in the cow horse because for whatever reason, the aspect of the loping and the going down the fence and everything, if I want to take something and go brand some calves on or go whatever I need to do, it's real easy for me to catch one of those cow horses because they kind of know how to travel. Speed is already there because you go down the fence, that's never slow for the most part. So it's a real good crossover for me.
Yeah.
We're like maybe the horses that I'm going to try to take to the NCHA futurity, I'm not just going to necessarily grab them and go use them for no other reason than the direction I've been training them doesn't involve a lot of long, fast loping and running and stopping. And so that cow horse to ranching kind of is a little unique in how they interact because it's I don't mind catching my cow horses and go doing whatever on.
Yeah.
Unless it's a really good horse and it's a month for the snaffle fit futurity. I'm not going to do that, but just saying it's pretty cohesive. For sure. So, and there's a lot of really good cowboys in the cow horse and the cutting too, but
Yeah, they just, you got to get more specialized, it seems like. It's not just, like in Buster's days when it was just, he ranched on them and used them outside and sort of dries off and drug calves and then took them to town to the show.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems like it's everybody's breeding for like a certain deal, and now even with Miles and Trevor, they're breeding for a rope horse instead of a reject cow horse or reject cutter or something like that.
For sure, yeah. And the rope horse futurity moving to the snaffle bit with us is, I've developed a lot of good relationships with people that have made their success in the team roping industry. And then, those last 4 or 5 days of the snaffle bit when the rope horse futurity starts and we're getting done showing, those guys they've learned. They're going around looking at, well, hey, maybe that horse just had a little bit of hell in the herd work or bobbling or reining or, they're not in the finals, but they're not a bad horse. And then so now we've got some of that industry coming in our industry, which I don't think has done anything but help.
Yeah.
And so, you got guys like Dakota and Dustin Rogers who has the background in the cow horse and now moved into the roping, or people like Cade, and that's not only a good resource for somebody like me who has developed a relationship like with them and also want to get better at the roping, but it's given me an avenue to go with those horses. And the same thing we were just talking about, even in that deal, it takes an exceptional horse to win. But yeah, it's been good for us. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think just like you get an exceptional horse, like you're talking about, and you get them broke, like a cow horse, and you can go do whatever you want on them. You can go,
absolutely,
run barrels on them. You can team rope on them. You can ranch on them. You can, if you can put that horse where he needs to be, and he's got some sense and stuff, then you can go do whatever you want.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I've had just don't talk about the top, percentage of winning in a show, but just take a ranch horse that's just an old ranch horse that's done everything. I mean, you can literally do everything, and then you can take them to the arena, and even though you never had any formal training, you can usually turn them into something pretty quick just because they've been there, done that,
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can ride them in there and put them wherever you want. And
yeah, just like that. Your wife and I were talking about that horse that Kelsey Thomas's. She actually belonged. My mother and I we take the best top horses. Mom and Dad want to train them and show them, so we send them to Boyd, and then I kind of take the other ones to train for myself. But we sent that horse up there to Boyd's, and I showed her in the cutting futurity, made the semis on her, but she was wild, very wild, even through a 3-year-old year. And whether it was the presence that a woman has around a horse versus a man, and then Kelsey's obviously an exceptional horseman, but man, they've won a lot more money than me and Buddy.
Yeah, they win everything.
Figured we were trading for right there. I thought, I'm getting rid of her, and he's getting, anyways. But we still laugh about it. But that horseman's super successful.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, has that brought y'all some business or people coming to look at y'all's horses? Because like you said, she dominates everywhere she goes on that horse.
For sure. Buddy's been back.
Yeah.
No, I haven't had any good deals for him like that in a long time.
They're trying to find another bargain.
Yeah. No, the horse. So like getting into now where I'm trying to sell these horses every year, it's been unique, because you maybe in the past couple of years, like I said, I was looking for those bargains, and I've made the mistake of there's some people pre-futurity, hey, well, this is a good horse, but he rears up with me every once, and so I'm like, hell, I can fix that, or I think I can. Well, I mean, all you can do is cover it up. So maybe I'm having to overcome a little bit of that. Well, he just shows really good, or hey, beware because I'm not, and so now I'm just trying to buy quality, good. Well, I wasn't horse trading by no means, but maybe was showing around some issues that didn't have a lot of longevity as a show horse, and now I'm just trying to get good quality, sound horses and just do good, solid deals, not be, have over expectation in my price. I don't want to go spend 50 thinking I'm going to get 100, but I don't mind spending 25 to make 35. Trying to be very realistic and very honest, because I brought them to sell. I didn't bring them to be too proud of them that I can't get rid of them.
Right.
And so hopefully that'll help my long term in the horse selling part of the game too.
And and your background in that, I mean, you got started kind of at Tech and on the ranch horse team. And did you go work for Boyd for a while?
I did, yeah. So I helped my first kind of being around the horse training deal. Well, I take that back. When I was younger, there was a guy named Rusty Carroll that lived next to us. He trained a bunch of calf horses, and then also trained some cutting horses, won the world a few times. And I'd go help him in the summertime. Then I helped Shot. And then when I graduated from TCU Ranch Management, I was living in Weatherford, and I was going out getting some help from Boyd. And that's been, I mean, me and BR's relationship has been awesome. He's just as good a friend to me as he's one of my better friends, talk on the phone every day, and what he has taken the time to show me, I'm not sure why he did, but it has been so big it's been everything, the foundation. Guys talk about seeing different trainers do different things, and you try this and you want them to cut like Boyd's and rein like Fapanis and go down the fence like Matt Cook's. Well, you can't get all three of those on one, but if you have a foundation, you always have something to go back to. I remember Chris Dawson saying that. And so Boyd's training program is my foundation. It's something I can always go back to if something's not working, and I'm trying too many different things, I've always got that to go back to. So yeah, I did spend a lot of time with him. Spent about a year and a half with him.
Yeah.
Helping him, going to the shows, and the showing deal is unique because it's not just about training them. Then you go to the show and then you've got to, how do you get them ready? How do you cut good cows? You got this going on. How do you prep? How do you school? Kind of like the rodeo guys talk about, how do you enter? I mean, how do you enter is not necessarily as important, but understanding the dynamics of that. I mean, he kind of gave me the mental game real early.
Yeah.
Which you hear a lot of people talk about mental. Mental health is a big deal in our world today. And so looking back on that, I'm super fortunate to be around people like him, because not only the training aspect and the showing aspect, but also the mental durability to lose, a bunch.
Yeah. And I mean, the mental deal in any kind of competition, I think especially when you're in there by yourself, when you go in, I mean, I've shown in the RHAAs and stuff and some of that stuff, and you're in that arena by yourself, and you have to go make your horse change leads and lope circles, and everybody's watching you, and it puts a lot of stress on you. So you got to be able to handle it, to not only, your horse is going to feel that, and you got to be able to control yourself and control your horse and go do your job. And
absolutely,
it's a little bit different, when they turn that cow out, you got something else to focus on. Or I'm sure I've never cut, but like in the cutting, you're in there, you got some help, and like you said, got some cattle to look at. But that's something when you trot out there in that to do a rein and run, and you're out there alone, especially if you're up here in Fort Worth or something, in the bright lights. And the mental deal, I think, is huge in any aspect, whether you're roping or, rodeoing or going to the horse show.
Right.
It's something that has to be dealt with, and I think it's a big thing. But for me, I know, like, if I'm prepared, I can go in there with the confidence, and it's a little bit better. And which, I know when I'm not prepared, I go in and, just gotta have low expectations. Like, hey, I've only practiced for a week, so we'll just gonna go throw it down. Yeah. Nothing to lose.
Absolutely.
And I do that a lot, because I don't, I get busy, and Shady will talk me into entering a horse show, and we kind of practice for a week or something on lead changes and all that stuff. And I'm just like, here we go. We're just gonna send it. And, just try to go in there with low expectations and do what I can. And
for sure,
it always turns out all right, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's a huge deal. That preparation, I took learning how to lose is a huge deal. There's been times like big shows, come Snaffle Bit Futurity, World's Greatest Horseman, that I've been with Boyd, and it's like something so small happened, and we went from winning it to nothing, not even making the finals or something like that. And I'm just like, because being educated now, and I saw all the work that he put in, and then all of a sudden that fast we're done or show's over, and I'm like, holy hell, what are we gonna do now, BR? And he's like, go home, work them tomorrow. Is there something else you want to do? And I'm like, no, I'm in. Let's go. So he really, like he always used to tell me, the big mistake we make is when we lose, we focus on it. We think about it all the time, and then when we win, we just go on. When it needs to be the other way around. When you lose, you just need to go on, and when you win in a non-boastful, conceited way, you need to give yourself some credit within yourself, not out loud to your buddies or anything else. But make sure and let that win carry you. Yeah, let that win help you go home and do a better job of working the horses.
Yeah, and I think it's just as important to look back at your wins. Break that down, like, oh yeah, that was good right here. I need to do more of that. I need to do more of this. I could have improved right here. Right. And most people, want to look at why they lost, and then just dwell on it, instead of trying to fix it.
Yeah, there's no growth there, especially for the cow horse, because we get them ready for 3 different disciplines, sometimes in a matter of 6 days, sometimes, like Snaffle Bit Futurity, we have 2 weeks spread out. You go get them drawing the cutting, then you kick them forward in the reining over their turnaround, and then you go mock chicken down the fence, and so like showing and going and learning how to prepare for those different scenarios, and then going and watching those guys, like ease out there and watch, Corey's in 2 sets. Ease over there and, hey, where's Corey at? Well, he's out there loping circles or something. Well, then, just kind of watch those guys and how those top guys prepare. And then that's what's helped me a bunch, like go out there at 4 a.m. the day before the fence work. Well, those guys are in the practice pen working 2 hours before so they can give their horse time to air up. And, all that little stuff goes into being successful for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to find somebody that's already done it or is doing what you want to do in any aspect of life, whether that's a business or, the performance horse deal, rodeo world, any of that. Just somebody that's already won, just go, whether you have to go to their schools or you can go work for them or whatever it is, just go be around them and try to get as much information as you can out of them in whatever form you can, and then just mimic everything you can. And if you do the same things, you're very likely to have the same outcomes. I mean, there's variables in this part, the horse and the, how the cattle work and everything. There's some variables there, but the more you're around them, the more you can mock what they do. You can have the same things that they got. That's a big deal. I really believe, whether it's, like I said, whether it's in ranching or business or whatever, just go find somebody that has what you want and then just do the same things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, you just went and worked for Boyd, and you gave him value and he wanted to give you value back, and it taught you a lot.
Absolutely. And it was unique to see how those guys, treated, maybe the right word, but if Boyd saw you work hard, truly work hard, he'd teach you everything you wanted to know. But if he saw you just getting by, he wasn't wasting his time teaching you anything, which may seem a little bit, I'm sure to those people that he could tell weren't trying very hard, they thought he was a jerk.
Yeah.
But once you realize that if he saw good, true, hardworking intentions, he'd help you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that goes for, we talked about that before, is, if you can see a kid coming up or whatever, and I mean, he wants it. He's putting forth the effort. He's getting up early, coming home late, and doing it every chance he can, whatever it is. And, you want to point them in the right direction anytime you can. And usually they'll come and ask or, whatever, and you want to help them out. But like you said, if it's somebody you can tell is just some punk, that don't care, you're not going to get a lot of help.
No, I agree. And it's good to see that. I'm not saying I'm old money. It means I'm 31, but I had Stoney's boy, Cooper, come help me start all our colts last year. And I mean, just step around all day long, gritty, just where is it at? Let's go. Let's get it. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's good to see that,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here a bunch of old timers talking, but I mean,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I enjoy that aspect, getting to have a kid around that craves it. And even if it's not the same thing I want, like if they just seeing them have a passion for something and really want to go for it is cool. And I'm sure older people say the same thing about people our age.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Let's get back to the ranching side. Like what's that look like? Are y'all just running cows, cow-calf, and what kind of cows y'all running and all that?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I've been just as fortunate in the cow business. Pete Bonds is my partner down there on all those cows, and so he's been extremely influential and, that lean on, hey, what do we do? What do we need to do? So I'm just as appreciative of that relationship as the one we were just talking about with Boyd. But typically, our base cow herd started off as like a three-quarter Brahman. I'm sorry, three-quarter Hereford, quarter Brahman. There's Bobby McCann down there at McFadden Ranch has kind of created this breed, Victorian cattle. Very good, cut dries off when you brand, take them and sell them. They weigh 1,000 pounds, so they're an very efficient small cow, but Charolais cross on that, we were weaning in a good year, some 650 weight, Charolais cross calves. So it was a good cow. I took that base kind of cow and started bringing some Red Angus genetics. There's a ranch down in Liberty called Trinity Valley. They raise a bunch of Red Angus cattle in that humid, hot part of, over there by Houston. So I started bringing some of those genetics in, maybe for some meat quality improvements on the steers. And I've loved that cross. Those little Red Angus cross calves are right there next to my Charolais cross calves. And I'm getting some replacements out of that, out of that cross. What did happen to me a little bit is I started losing a little too much ear. And so Pete and I brought some of the Beefmaster bloodlines. We've used a bunch of Next Gen's bulls and brought those Beefmaster bloodlines, crossed it back on more of that Red Angus influenced cow. So I think it'll be like a 1-2 switchback, but we're keeping enough hybrid vigor in there that the cow's efficient down there. I talked to a lot of these bull guys like Donald Brown. I'm good friends with his son Lanham and Next Gen. And, what do I want? I want a little straight back black cow that's going to have, 5 to 10% prime on a truckload of calves. But she's not going to do it in South Texas, And so they all tell me, match your cow to your environment and then get the best quality bull you can and improve your genetics that way. Yeah. So that's kind of what we've been focusing on, that Red Angus Beefmaster cross on that, kind of composite Hereford Brahman cow we had.
Yeah, and I actually just made a video on this like a couple weeks ago, and I got the opportunity to lease a place over there in East Texas, and real brushy, and the fences aren't real good and stuff. So, I mean, I like the ears, I like, a Brayford kind of cow and all that. But like this deal, I knew it was going to be hard to gather. I knew it was rough, a lot of brush, and they were probably going to get out. So I turned out horn cows, and that's basically what the video was about, why I did it. And I think that's a huge deal, is like, if I had a place that was just open and coastal fields, I probably would run something like a Tiger Stripe with a Charolais bull or something. But, this deal, and, if you go further north, maybe you want a little bit less ear, right. Even though it's not as, I call them sexy, Shady thinks they look like the devil when they got those big ears and they look mean, but I like them. But yeah, you just fit it, there's a reason that they run more Angus genetics, in the plains, and then there's a reason that they're have flop ears down on the coast.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. And my wife thinks the same thing, by the way, about the Bramer cows. She's seen them get mad. But I've got the same thing. I've picked up some of that stuff that had a lot of production on it, and then was kind of mismanaged over the years that we've just kind of taken over. Bought a set of Coriini cows and turned them out there, and it's like, hey, make sure they got water, kick them a little feed when you want, and then you go preg them, and you're like 98% breed up. And you're thinking, okay, so 0 inputs and 98% breed up. All our inputs, and here, 99. So it's made me really honestly look at it a few times and say, are we missing something? I wouldn't say that I have a cow that I'm promoting or a beef that I'm selling pounds of beef. That's where I'm at right now.
You don't care what the cow looks like.
Just pounds of beef. Picked up some lease country next to us. Pete and I just bought a bunch of, for lack of a better term, trader cows. Put a Charolais bull on them and sell pounds of beef. Do I think quality plays a large impact in the beef industry? Absolutely. But where I'm at right now is I'm trying to, once again, find that cow that matches the environment, and then that quality bull where I can keep my buyers happy every year that we have a quality beef product for them. But in the interim, to get land grazed and to have cash flow, we're raising pounds of beef.
Right. And you just got to keep working towards it and improving it.
And fit your country, like you just said. Those Coriinis do great. I love roping them, and they're awesome to work your horses on. So. Yeah. And they feed at a trot, they strip at a trot, and they go down the chute at a trot, and I like that.
Yeah, they're completely different to work. I mean, I worked them roping cells and been around them a lot, and it's just like, they've been roped their whole lives and handled, and I mean, you can stop them whenever you want, and you show them a little hole and they'll go through it. I mean, kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. It land passes the gates wouldn't always stay open, and they'd have this much room, and they would just go right around the gate instead of going out the big alley. So they're a whole different creature.
Yeah.
But I remember when Shady, when we started dating, she wanted some cattle to work up there in Stephenville, work her horses on, and so I bought some like 3/4 blood heifers and sent her, and she's like, "What are these?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they look like devil cows.
Exactly. Yeah. If my wife sees that there's some little bit of eared cattle in the cutting pen, I'm like, "Hey, will you turn back?" She's like, not today, because it's going to start a fight somehow.
Yeah, but they get good. They can get good.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been unique to a guy that I've got helping me right now. His name's Caleb Sanderson. He's got a bunch of, kind of yellow barking cur dogs. And it's just, for me, I've got my like Kelpie, they're Australian dingo cross, and they work good on like my replacement heifers. But then we get in those eared cattle, and it's just like that dog was made for those type of cattle. You know, those Bramers look at my dogs and they're like, yeah, down, I'll walk right over you. But then you introduce those tight-haired dogs, and it's unique to see how well they work together. And you can get them gentle. I mean, there's some haltered, eat cake out of your hand, eared cattle.
We had some big tiger stripes coming off a place. There's a sellout deal coming to the sale barn one time, and we were trying to deal them up, and they would just wad up, and then if you were in there a foot, I mean, they would try to eat your lunch. And somebody's like, "Look, you got to go in there horseback," because that's all they've ever known. And so I went and got my horse out and went in there, and you couldn't even have a guy foot on the gate. It had to be a guy horseback back there, and you could just walk in there just like some Angus cows or something. You just walk in there, peel one out, they just walk right over.
Yeah,
and they just take a lot more time.
They do. Yeah, we bought, Pete bought a bunch of straight Brahman bulls one time, and they were all, like choice grade, had ultrasounded choice grade. And so we thought, we know the brindle heifers will bring the money, so then we'll get these high quality meat bulls, and then we'll feed the steers. Because, the steers are cents on the dollar compared to the heifers. But I remember we were branding one year, and Kai Houston was helping me at the time, and Tim Washington came down, and we were knocking the bulls off, and one of those Bramer bulls jumped the gate. I was like, "Hey, Tim, will you ease around there and grab him?" We finished knocking these dries out. Now I look out there, and he's hollering. He's like, "We're going to need some help." And that horse of his, you'd have thought he was going to gather a dragon. He wouldn't get anywhere near it.
It's funny too. We've had the same. We've had some bulls, some Bremer bulls we like traded on, and we had them turned out, and we went to gather them. They were with some cows, and Shady was riding one of her horses, and that bull wasn't even mean, just out in the pasture, just standing there, and that horse was just scared to death. And it's funny how some of them recognize that they're different.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. It was funny. We knocked everything. We were throwing them up, fixing to take them into the pens, and anyways, whole drive kind of came together, and it was getting kind of tight. We were just kind of winging them in there, and it was mixed, like all my buddies, that came down to help me, and then my buddies that were local. And when those bulls got in there and turned, it was like it split the locals and the guys that traveling. And I'm not kidding; those other horses left, and everybody that was used to it, we ended up having 12 to 6 guys. And it was funny. I got rid of them, but yeah,
and they can get crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us about what all we kind of talked about a little bit, but what all you show in the associations y'all go to. You do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything. I'm part of the RHA. I was president for 2 years there, kind of during COVID. Still pretty active in it, on the board, and help put on the production side of the Western Heritage Show in Abilene. But mostly just show in the rein cow horse and the cutting. Showed in the stock horse. We'll still go to some stock horse shows at Circle T. It's a great place to get the horses out and get them away from town. But yeah, mostly just in the rein cow horse and the NCHA. And my focus now that both futurities is moved to Fort Worth is kind of the 3-year-old, preparing the 3-year-old for the futurities, and then as soon as the futurity is over, I sell them, go back home, start in on the 2s.
Yeah,
it's kind of what my focus is looking like. It's going to be for the next few years, and I enjoy that. Like, the futurities are where the most added money is, and the horse deal's not my job. It's what you'd save 2 hours here and there to go do. And so try to just prepare the best I can, come up to these futurities, try and execute. That's where you have the shot at winning the most money, and then sell them and go home and start over.
Yeah.
That's kind of going to be my focus for the next few years.
And that deal's crazy. We were talking before about, y'all come stay a month up here in Fort Worth at a time at those futurities.
Yeah, for the snaffle bit. It's it's interesting, but it's a great show. It's that little bit of that unknown, because everybody's been working 2 years. Comes down to one show, and it doesn't. You can tell yourself that it does, but it doesn't. But it's cool opportunity, because I think in each industry you see a lot of guys that are very successful age event horse trainers, and then you have guys that are very successful at showing the older horses, and then across all schemes. And so it's just an interesting kind of dynamic.
Pick your niche. We kind of talked about it. You found some really good mentors, I think, in Pete and then in Boyd. And there's that saying that you're the sum of whatever it is, 3 or 5 people you hang around. Who do you kind of hang around and talk to every day? And
so Boyd, talk to Boyd quite a bit. Don't talk to Pete all the time, but if there's for sure somewhere, somebody I need to talk to. And then, just a lot of friends I've made. Jordan Williams, talk to him all the time, and I think, he's in the horse industry every day, so he's a really good place. We've grown up friends, but he's a really good place for me, because he's staying super sharp on what's working and what's not. So he's a good place to, last 3 days, him and I've started real early up here and working horses, and just kind of like, hey, where are you at this time of the year? Where are your 3-year-olds at? What's working for you? And we have gotten past the point of like, hey man, that looks like shit. I could tell him that, he could tell me that. There's no offense. It's an honest opinion where maybe not everybody's, oh yeah, it looks good. Because and I'm also not showing against him either. Yeah. So I'm he's not showing against me. So it's and we kind of grew up around the same people. But yeah, Boyd, Jordan, talked to Ty Brown a bunch. Ty showed a lot, won a lot of money, and he's a good guy to just he's been won a lot, and he's lost a lot too. So it's good to, those guys just keep you in check, for, I hope that I don't ever get where it's like, oh, I'm winning and it's going great, but maybe, every once in a while you say something and it's kind of like, well, I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine got real upset. He was winning the prelims going in, didn't get down the fence. And he was like, I'm done showing, this and that. And I was talking to Spud. I was like, man, I'm not sure what to tell him. I'm not sure what to say to him. My interaction with Boyd let me know that's just how that goes, right? I knew that, but this person hadn't really worked for a trainer, so he didn't really get to see that and develop that kind of mental durability. And Spud was like, Shannon Hall showed like 17 times in the cutting for, or maybe, no, Spud showed like 11 times before he made the futurity finals. Now I think Shannon showed like 20 times or 25 times before he made the futurity finals. Then the first year he made it, he won it. So it's like, but you thought that your 4th year showing horses, you need to make the open finals, like just perspective.
And knowing that the way I look at stuff is like you can, like one thing can change your life. Like, and you hear those stories in the horse industry like that, like, never had any wins or anything, and then but you just keep driving, keep going, keep entering, and then all of a sudden there's one show and it clicks, and then it can change your life, bring you new clients.
Absolutely.
You can do all kinds of stuff, get you better horses, and and it starts rolling.
Yeah, and it just gives you the good energy to take home and want to keep
that momentum.
That good momentum. Yeah, absolutely.
And that, I think that's a big deal, like the momentum. And you can get momentum without actually getting the accolades. Like you can just in your life, if you say you're going to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, wake up at 5:30, that's a win right there. And then you just keep whatever it is, just set some little goals throughout the day. And that's a good way to kind of keep your mental health and kind of keep that ball rolling, in your favor and get that momentum going.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That was William Lewis, maybe, or I can't, General McThar, whoever wrote the Make Your Bed book, that task completion. He said, people in the armed forces, they don't want them to make their bed because they want it to look nice. That's the first task every day. If you complete that task, obviously you gain that momentum from there. And that's huge for me because we're going in a lot of different directions at home. And a lot of my, friends kind of give me a hard time, but like I write out my day by the hour on my planner every morning when I get up. And not always to a T, but I write it so that I have a guideline so that I can go out and execute. Well, if I didn't have a plan, between the dealing with the stuff in the office and the horses and the cattle and all the different, stuff, if I make a plan, I do a good job. And like you said, I notice on those days maybe where we were a little late the night before and I didn't do that, you don't have a basis, so you don't have anything to execute, so you don't necessarily get that positive, motivation to continue because you didn't lay it out, right? So it's huge for me. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
What's your favorite horse that you've owned and maybe watched, or it could be the same one?
Yeah, I think for me, it's this bridle horse I have right now. His name's SCR Bet this time. He's a cat out of a one-time mare. And he was a horse for me that just kind of really clicked. Ended up third on him at the snaffle bit. Won the Hackamore Classic on him. Won some bridle stuff on him. Won the 4-event out in Arizona last year on him. Plan to show him in the World's Greatest next year. I mean, he's been an awesome horse for me. I know that I don't know how he ended up being that because I look back on what I thought I knew 4 years ago. I mean, he should for sure be rearing up and laying down, but he's not. So it's just kind of one of those deals. What the guys in the rodeo say, it's not the best horse, it's the one that fits you the best. And so that's kind of what he was. Yeah.
Yeah. You can see like, Junior and JoJo and like guys like that. I mean, you hear JoJo tell stories about he had horses that you couldn't even like ride in the box and he could go out there and win a rodeo on them. So it's to each their own, I think.
That's a funny story because he was, I rodeoed with JoJo a little bit when Buster and I were going together and, ranch rodeoed, obviously, but Shot was telling me that when JoJo was, in his teens, young, kind of starting in the pro rodeos, they were at a rodeo in like Garden City or somewhere, and he was like, "Hey, Shot, because Shot was an older school guy. He's like, "Hey, I want you to check this horse out. I want you to check this horse out." And he's cool, And Shot said when JoJo nodded, this horse reared straight up in the air, and he said as soon as his front feet hit the ground, it was on the horns. And he came up and he's like, "Shot B, what do you think of my horse?" He's like, "Man, I think your horse is terrible, but you roped unbelievable." And so,
it's funny. It's funny to see people be able to do that. Like, so many people, it takes a really great horse for them to win. And then there's some guys that are just like freaks and they can just, as long as they'll run just a little bit, or stand still long enough in the box, nod your head, they can go make it happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's your favorite event? Like, and kind of break that down two ways. It could be, a discipline or like your favorite event in the cow horse or whatever, and then also your favorite like show to go to.
So, I mean, I think I just love I really like the World's Greatest because it's got the roping in it. And I like roping, grew up high school rodeo and doing the whole deal. My favorite event is the fence work. And, kind of the funny thing saying the cow horse is, well, it all comes down to the fence work. Well, yeah, because the fence work is always last. So obviously it always comes down to the fence work. But, the reining and the cutting have that control because there's no speed. It has a little more of that control factor because it doesn't involve the speed, because you have to, in the fence work, you got to work what they turn in, So I don't know why. I helped Matt cook for a while. I went up there and hung out with him, and, that fence work is pretty much his event, and it's because the speed really doesn't matter. He's okay to let that control go. And so I think that's why he's so successful down the fence. And I like the fence work, because it's got that, kind of cowboy, you got to go fast. And there's some times where you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm fixing to fall down. But, and then like Boyd's obviously very successful in the cutting, but I think he has also had a lot of success in the fence work because he gets those horses just absolutely gritty and wanting it. Maybe it's a little too hard sometimes, but I mean, maybe they're ducking in a little too hard, but I mean, he can drop his hand and they go get it on.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's the last event. So if you can cut and rein, that's all good. But you can't go down the fence. Well, then hell, by the time you get to the last event, so I love the fence work.
Yeah.
And the Snaffle Bit Futurity, I think, is my favorite event because there's been so many times that when you go in there for the finals that night or you're watching the open finals, it's like, who's going to win? And anybody. Anybody's going to win because there's so many different aspects that can go wrong or right, between the 7 to 8 different maneuvers in the reining and the cow work and the cutting and the, everything else. So the unpredictability, there's been a lot of horse trainers, I think, had, a huge night, and it's really just depends on who it all lines up for.
Yeah.
A good horse obviously is very helpful, but it really just depends on whose night it is.
Yeah, and you're doing it all on a 3-year-old too. So there's a little bit. I mean, yeah, you've done your best, but they're still pretty young in their life, and a lot of horses don't mature. But I'm sure if you're in the finals, they're going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you didn't get there just off you alone. But the cow horse and that, there's a big rider aspect and there's a big horse aspect too. Yeah, for sure.
What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, man, my kitchen. No, my wife cooks very good. I ate at Silver Fox last night. It's pretty hard to beat.
Really?
Yeah, it's good.
We got some gift cards for there. We were thinking about trying it out.
Lucille's maybe up on Camp Bowie. It's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And then this is kind of a joke question, but since you went to both, which one do you root for? Like when you're watching sports, Tech or TCU?
Oh yeah, I love when people ask me this because they were like, "You must be a Patrick Mahomes guy," and I'm like, "Man, I did not step foot in that stadium one time." Nor TCU. Well, me and Gage actually, I think, went to a TCU game, but my cousin was a place kicker for TCU while he was in college, so I got a little bigger tie there. So I'd have to go TCU in whatever they were doing.
Yeah, cool. Where can they find you in Sarco Creek and?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the new kind of branding push we're doing, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Goliad County.
Yeah,
maybe on the water.
Sarco Creek, you got an Instagram page for that?
We
Sarco
do.
Creek
Yeah,
Ranch,
just Sarco.
Facebook and Instagram.
Absolutely.
All that.
Yep. It used to be Sarco Creek Ranch, and now we're just kind of going with Sarco because it's had a presence in, like we said, all those kind of different industries. So that's what we're going with now.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, y'all go follow Sarco, and then Parke Greeson. Look him up if y'all want a horse. Interested in ranching. Want to talk to him about the ranch management deal, whatever, look him up, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help. You can go follow me, The Real Crockett Carruthers, or Crockett Carruthers on Facebook. And if you're listening to this and you want to watch it, it is on YouTube, The Wealthy Cowboy Show, so check that out. As always, share it out, please. Let's get this, this cowboy message out, and let's spread some positivity. So thank you for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
See ya.